freshwater generator, shell and tube type. It's a hermetic recipient in which the air is extracted until reach an almost total vacuum, for to produce distilled water by the evaporation and condensation process of the seawater, where the cooling water of the cylinders of a combustion engine is used as heating source. Also saturated steam can be used on the merchant ships is the main mean for to obtain fresh water for the uses and services on board and even drinkable water. In this diagram we can see all the processes, which we explain in detail one by one as follow. This freshwater generator has two parts joined together, each one, inside, has a heat exchanger of tube type. One is the evaporator and the other the condenser. In this view of the interior we can see the components such like evaporator, condenser, filter of metallic mesh, deflector plate and water collector. The circuit of seawater is conformed by a centrifugal pump which we called ejector pump. This one suctions the seawater by means of sea chests, filters and the pipeline named as crossover. In this diagram we can see the flow direction of the seawater. The water is sent by an ejector, passed through the internal part of the pipes of the condenser and then it is divided in two ways. One pipeline fill with seawater the lower part of the evaporator until a specific level, and the other pipeline send the water overboard, returning to the sea. When the seawater passes through the ejector, a vacuum is generated, Venturi effect. Two pipelines are attached to the ejector, one extract the air from the upper part of the freshwater generator and the other one the excess of seawater and the brine. By removing the air a vacuum is produced inside. The general gas law tells us if we have a lower pressure we can achieve the evaporation of the seawater with a lower temperature. Normally the cooling water of the cylinders of the main engine is used for heating the sea water. The main engine provides the propulsion to the ship. The pipe connected at the middle part, allowed to keep a seawater level constant in the interior. Besides suction the brine and solid particles, which dropped when collide with the deflector plate in metallic mesh. The air, brine, solid particles and excess of seawater that passes through the ejector, traveling together until reach the sea by means of the overboard valve. This system for high temperature water consists of the heat exchanger, the evaporator and the inlet and outlet valves as well as a bypass valve. The water, generally distillate, is sent by a centrifugal pump, first passes by the propulsion engine where the temperature is raised when the interchange of heat is made with the combustion cylinders of the engine. Then return to the cooler if high temperature, but once that the inlet and outlet valves are open and the temperature is adjusted with the bypass valve, the water of the cylinders make the interchange of heat with seawater located in the lower part of the freshwater generator. When the right conditions inside the freshwater generator are reached, it means an almost total vacuum, the seawater in a constant level and the cylinder cooling water between 70 to 80 Celsius degrees. The process of the evaporation of the seawater at low temperature is possible. The steam travels to the upper part, but in its way it must avoid the obstacles, like the deflector plate and pass through a metallic mesh filter. When the steam collides with the deflector plate, the heaviest particles drop to the bottom, usually salt grains and other solid elements. The steam follows its path and then pass by the metallic mesh filter where another separation is made again. Here the rest of particles falls up. How was mentioned before, the brine and the solid particles are drained up from the inner part of the freshwater generator case by means of the ejector and sends out overboard. The water steam, once free of solid particles and brine, arrives at the top and meet with the heat exchanger where the condensation is made, changing of physical state from steam to liquid. The water generated falls down and start to accumulate in the collector. When the collector reaches a certain level, the distillate water pump can be put on service. The distillate water pump suction the water from the collector and send it by a salinometer. This one measure the quantity of salt in the water, even in very small portions. The primary water contain remains of salt that overpass the 15 parts per million. That's why it's sending back inside the freshwater generator by a solenoid valve which works together with the salinometer. When the salinometer detects a salt content below the 15 parts per million, it sends a signal to the solenoid valves, the return valve close and the other one open, allowing the pass of the water to the storage tank. Previously this water passed through a water counter, which shows the quantity of water generated. With this diagram we conclude the exposition. Thank you.